Welcome to all on this online and real cafe in the frame of this amazing event. Hartelijk welkom in Geographies, Relationales. That brings together walking artists, researchers around moving through the landscape and moving as human beings and together with non-human beings. A topic that we will explore during the coming week, and that we will start with a casual conversation with Clara, co-director of this conference, together with me, and with Igor Binsbergen and Laroche, also known as Luce. In a casual conversation about the topics of sound, soundwalking, mapping, emotional geography, relations between people, places, and non-humans. Before we start, first of all of you, welcome online and welcome here in Girona. We are here in the old university, sitting in a medieval building next to the courtyard, where a group is joining with an aperitif, where we will take part in after this cafe. And we would like to share with you some house rules. This is video recorded, so if you feel comfortable with that, you can keep your camera on, otherwise you can switch it off. It's a project in the frame for bigger, the walk cafes that are happening now, together with the conference, Walking Arts and Relational Geographies, is organized in the frame of WALC, which is Walking Arts and Local Communities Creative Europe project. This cafe is part of that. So we will ask you for some data needed for this project. If you will be so kind to fill out a poll that I will share with you. And you will be asked to give some information about your gender. You can ignore it, you can just not answer, or you can answer this small poll, if you would be so kind. Now, I would like to as well to thank Andrew, who is here with me, Andrew Stuck. You see his name under my face, so we're here together, and he will help us technically if needed to make this cafe work. This is a cafe. The ideas of these cafes are that is an open conversation between all of you, the people that are here online and physically present, with the conversation that will be started between us four about the conference, about the work of Laroche and Igor. And you can join, you can leave whenever you want. It's a very spontaneous, natural event where we count as much on you as on our ideas that we would like to share with you. First of all, I would like to introduce you very briefly to Igor and Laroche. Igor is a multidisciplinary artist. He works mainly with sound, sculptures, and other forms of art. But music, as a musician, he has composed and played with various formations and performed in different countries. And he was as well artist in residence in the Grand Tour, about which we'll talk later, which is the initiative of Clara, and explores by foot with the group Catalonia every summer during a month with an artist interacting with the landscape and the community. And Igor was the artist that participated in this event some years ago and created soundscapes inspired by walking Catalonia. Laroche is an itinerant artist. She's based here as well in the French Pyrenees. We are at the foot of the French Pyrenees now. And she's working extensively from these field centers, doing field work in the mountains, in the Alps, also in southern Spain and London. And she has in 2014 already founded and coordinated the International Artist Network, Temporal School of Experimental Geography, the tsoeg.org, where you can find more information. She also is into sound. She co-founded the Sonic Arts Collective Cell Noir in 2022 and the curatorial collective Mass Project in 2023. She and they are a regular collaborator with AADK Performance Platform in Spain, and Laroche is fellow at the Royal Geographical Society in London. We are now hoping to initiate a conversation with you all and with Laroche and with Igor about mapping, and maybe a first question to you, Igor. As you are an interdisciplinary artist where you use the sound as an immersive, all connecting tool or discipline to interact with the landscape. Could you tell us a bit about the work you have made for the Grand Tour some years ago?
Sure. As a recordist, well, I'm doing it for a lot of years now. Started in music because I'm a musician, foremost musician, and towards, well, a little bit forced because of, as a musician, it's very difficult if you make music, which is alternative as I did to live off it. I was a little bit forced to go into the techniques part, but I really like it also very much. So now I'm between musician and also the technical part. And I make a lot of recordings of other musicians, but also the sounds I hear, and that's why I'm dedicating within the tour, not so much as a musician, but more as the technical part, but doing things I like, not as a work. I'm not, how do you call it? It was a free initiative from my part to the first time I met Clara, and that was in 2017, to start recording the tour there. And I started with the thing I already started before in with the Occupy movement, to make recordings, binaural recordings, and that's which is a word which is very in now, the immersive sound of 3D recording. And that's what I'm doing I've done it now for four sessions of the Grand Tour. I made like 4 works. I record every day. I have a lot of hours of material, but I resume it into like half an hour and making something interesting, doubling or 6 doubling different sounds, and making a sort of complete composition out of it.
And this the soundscapes you make, they are meant to map the routes?
No, there's no. I mean, it's within the time I was there, so the time is given. And the places I work, I try to work chronologically, but it's not a must. Maybe I can start with the end recording the tour and put it in the front. So no, it's not mapped without. It hasn't made that out of the place itself.
Now, the striking in your work is that you work with sound, but you're not only a sound artist. So you bring in various elements, various disciplines, various approaches, which is also typical for the Laroche works. Including sculptures, the drawings, texts, and how does this enrich this experience of interacting with the landscape? You have this discipline of sound art, which is very much based on the recording, field recording, the mapping and documenting nature. But for you, it's a bit more than that.
For me, well, I like to. It's also a part of the artistic, and I like the part of edition. I like very much to make different soundscapes than just recording. I try to make something of it, which isn't only the recording of the place itself. I want to make it a little bit different. But only with material I record it there. I don't use other materials, other places. And but I want to, yeah, for me it's like a training of the ear. Just to put in different sounds and to concentrate on what you hear. That's why I really like to not put it with video or something. I want to really give space for the imaginary, the people who wasn't there. He could imagine, she could imagine how it was and how it is there. What image is going with the sound, or what are you thinking of while you're listening?
You're a Dutch artist, and you are living here in Catalonia, man. How did you end up here?
As a musician, and love also. But as a musician, I played here. I did here. I was for a month, like touring in Barcelona, in Catalonia, with a jazz band. That was my first contact. And after I won,
you just never
left.
left.
The rest.
Yeah, you never left after you fell in love.
No, I left. There was something. There's a gap between, which was a lot of traveling forth but yeah, that's how.
And then you came into contact with Clara at the Grand Tour at a certain
That was
point.
later. That was later. That was about 2015.
Yeah, 50. Yeah.
Right. So before we come back to you, I would like to ask to Laroche to tell a bit more about your relation, your falling in love with the French Pyrenees and the place here.
So which bit would you like to hear first?
What is connecting us all in this week is actually just looking beyond disciplines and beyond the place, but seeing art as a possibility to integrate, to connect, to bring together not only people but also disciplines, which is very present in your work already for many years, and seeing geography not only as a canvas for approaching the landscape, but also bringing various arts together in your work with performance, with visual arts. So could you tell us something about how you came to that, how it's developing in your work and in the school that you have?
Sure. So to begin, I guess it all started with the Royal Geographical Society and wanting to break something of a system there in terms of looking at colonialism and mapping and naming and all of these types of activities that a lot of geographers take for granted and know how to do. And I wanted to put something else into that space, so I started developing what was called, what became Artists in the Field, which was a workshop as part of the Explore programme, which is like the Royal Geographical Society flagship event, which is every November. And about 400 to 500 people, adventurers, geographers, scientists, one artist, and then many artists eventually started to come to look at expeditions and fieldwork planning, because I felt a sense that there was fieldwork in a lot of the artistic practice that I was interested in, and it became my research. And so I started reaching out to a lot of different artists to find out what this field work might be. So whether it was in a library, doing some research in books, physically being in the field, whether field work could be an art form, lots of different ways to explore the idea of field work. So I invited a workshop, which became very well attended and became an event that became a bit too big within Explore itself. So in 2019, we made a large exhibition as well at the Society to show lots of different ways that artists were exploring fieldwork in their practice. And that really comes from Temporal School of Experimental Geography, which evolved around the same time as that experience, around 2007. That began, and by 2013, I'd already started assembling a few artists that I thought we could have conversations about fieldwork with and develop a platform. And now we're 50 artists and researchers, so artists and associates. Clara is an associate and her fantastic work. And these are all people that I'd met personally until COVID happened. And then I thought, I need to meet more people. I need to continue meeting people. So it evolved into an online space from then. So now I meet lots of people, lots of artists and curators, geographers, who are all working in this idea of fieldwork and what it means in their practices. So whether they're scientists or artists or anything else, it's an interesting subject to me personally, and I use it all the time. I mean, I began by making maps, and I guess my earliest is this Confluence, which was a big commission in a French natural park north of France. And actually that was a cycle ride, but spending 6 weeks cycling around a 75,000 hectare park. But it was also like to cycle to places to be able to access. You know, there's a lot of places you can't actually get to in a car, which is good. So it was to use the bike as a way of navigating through this space and encountering people quite differently. And then I have a couple of others, which were different types of commissions. This was a big walking map, which was in Faversham for a commission there. and Iron Bridge, Gorge, and the River Severn, and that was for another commission. So I make maps. So I've got about 60 maps, and I'll bring some more to the conference as the days unfold. They're not all like that. There's lots of different ones, like a survey in Lisbon, for example, walking through the streets. But it's all about encounter and people and not people, trees, all the details, lots of places that have actually been walked already. You know, they're not going hiking, summiting huge mountains where there's nobody. I use pathways that are very well travelled, but I make fieldwork documents of the very tiny details that maybe somebody who knows it well would recognise. But if you don't know it well, then you come across something new through the work. And so that's probably it in a nutshell, I think.
As in the work of Igor, sound is a sort of integrative element where all disciplines come together. We think people can hear me, but in your work, sound is an integrative element where all disciplines come together. That's a sort of cement of your artistic practice. You work with sound as well, related to mapping. Could you tell a little bit more about what role sound plays in your approach?
Well, it's more, for me, it's a collaboration. So I collaborate with a musician. He's also a sound artist, DJ, and music producer. And he's based in southern Spain. And we came together because we make field recordings. And then we compose the field recordings into musical scores, put them together with photographic or video work, and try to ask questions about what's actually happening in the world through audiovisual pieces which we put in the public domain. So it's not an exclusive work. It's very much a public work to start asking questions, mainly working for political ecology, injustice, environmental injustices, thinking things through in terms of industrial or industrialization, colonialism, so that it's a place for more political work, I guess, than sound work. Although I think all work's probably political. Even my photographic work, mapping, regular work's probably political, but they're not in the same way. So as the sound. But yeah, we take natural sounds and we make something else out of them. And they might become drum beats, rhythms or something, you know, just thinking about different kinds of relationships that we can make through the sound and the image.
We come back to that in a moment, but that is also something that is part of the celebration that the Grand Tour is: the music, the singing together, the making music together, to be in the villages together, to have feasts, and that's why I think it's a coincidence that Igor and you are already 3 years partners in this sound journey. Could you tell something about the Grand Tour in that perspective of how music and dancing, singing brings communities together?
Yeah, what Igor was saying before has reminded me an anecdote that I think it reflects very well this idea. Many years ago, we were programming a hydrophone workshop, very specialized for musicians, to record under the water and also to work with soundscapes. And the teacher, one of the teachers, the first day, the first workshop was without any recording device, like with purposes. So the first thing you do when you're related to sound and to soundscape, when you are a working artist, is to be there, is to use your body. And this is very important in Grand Tour, and also is very important in this conference. The fact that, of course, we have devices, and these devices are very useful, and we will use them, but first is our body. This is why also Grand Tour is 250 or 300 kilometers, and not just 2 days, because you have to challenge your body, and you have, not in a sense of heroicity, not in a sense of magnifying the effort, but yes, in the sense of feeling with your whole body, not only thinking with your mind, but thinking with your feet, and thinking with your hands, and thinking with your ears. And this a sound aspect, which is very important in Grand Tour, because we have always stressed very much and insisted very much in this aspect, has much to do with this using your whole body for perceiving, and don't separate so much view, ear, or visual art, or music, or dance, and at the same time you don't separate so much the musician from the audience, and you don't separate the individual from the group. So you fight for this fusion, and this fusion is bringing a lot of joy, because it is very simple. When we were little children, we played like that. We didn't separate things. So this union is, as I said, is, for example, what leads big workshops. For example, this idea is what has led us to dedicate a full day to go from Girona to Banyoles. We could have stayed here. It would be much simpler in the sense of transfer or other logistics. But it is fantastic that you dedicate 4, 5, 6 hours of extreme heat, and you are there, and nothing will happen, but your whole body will be there. Not only your mind or your artist habits, or you will be drawing, but not only drawing, you will be singing, but not only singing. So this is a very important idea of Grand Tour, but it is also a very important idea of our being together here now. For example, we are online, but there's a lot of us here. And as far east as Australia, and as far west, for us Europeans, of course, as the States. And this being here and being together with our body and with our mind and with our ears is precious, because we are near to lose it. We have been in danger of losing it. So now we have to seize it, take it, and don't leave it for the rest of our lives. And we have to think with the feet. As Francesc Tosquelles, the wonderful psychiatrist that revolutioned the psychiatry in France, because he was exiled from Catalonia, as he said, you have to think with the feet, and you have to feel with the ears, and everything has to be fusion, and we have to be fusion also all together, which is not that easy, and sometimes it's not that difficult. So we are about to start. That's my invitation.
So adding to that, and to the word that is appearing here a lot is together, and togethering, and encounter, which is actually where this confidence, literally the word confidence, refers to that, about being together. And then more than just being together, but relating, almost being a family. This brings me to my roots towards sound and walking when I was living in the north of Portugal and met with an amazing group called Escoitar, a collective where I was a member of in the early 2010s. And that actually were a group fascinated by listening as something that brings us all together. People that are philosophers, historians, artists, writers, and musicians, sound artists, so that it's because sound is going deeper than the very harsh visual unidimensional approach to a rational approach that we have. So we came up with the first sound map of Spain, but we didn't want to make a sound map that was documenting the natural resources, the cities, on this very panoptic, direct way. But we invited people to record places that meant or mean something for them and to upload it themselves on a map with their personal story, their relation with that place, which was also not only about their relation with the place, but also relation with everybody that was contributing to this map. This was a huge success, and in a few years there were like more than 4,000 stories in sound and people that connected with this map. And one of the things that we didn't think about in advance was that at a certain moment as a collective, we were a collective, we were a group of friends. We didn't even have a bank account. We're just doing this because we were passionate about it. And after 10 years working together, we decided, okay, now it's time to go other paths. And the question was, well, what will we do with this sound map? Because nobody owns it. And there came in the poetics, and it's something that is connecting all of your work as well. We decided not to see it as an archive, this map, but to consider it as something that was meant to us and that we had to give back. So we made a website where people could, when people were visiting this website, one sound of this 4,000 was played and time erased from the database. So after the 3 years and thousands of visits on this website, little by little the sounds were giving back to silence, were giving back to the place, were giving back to the territory. And that's also an aspect of mapping that's typical for your work, Clara, Laroche, and Igor. That is not about appropriating, about the having, it's about giving space, it's about the relation with the deeper relation you create with the place.
No, because
yes.
Sorry.
Yes, please.
No, because also I think with sound, maybe more than with vision, but in sound especially, I think it's not really related to a place, because I have a lot of moments in my life ahead, or well, in a week or on a day, that you hear something and you can imagine yourself in another place because it reminds you of the it's a very emotional feeling. It's like with a sense of if you smell something, a flower, and it's remembering that can transport you within a tenth of a second to like a moment like 10 years ago. And I have this with sound also. You can be in one place, then you close your eyes and you hear something, and you're back in wherever you were. You remember of a place where you were. I don't know.
It's what Clara is referring to, that actually triggers it, activates the whole body, and you hear with the whole body. Your hearing is feeling, and that is also why sound is so immaterial and material at the same time. It's not about taking, it's not about owning, it's about being part of something that is.
And that's what I liked of the Grand Tour, because you're traveling, but you can also travel while you're traveling.
Yeah.
You know, so you're really walking day after day. You're traveling through the country, but sometimes you travel parallel way. You're traveling another way. So that's.
Lucius Burkhardt, he talked in his Spaziergangsschaft about that actually walking is a science, and that in walking the objective and the subjective come together, and that is where your work so beautiful. That mapping is beyond this cartography, but it is actually mapping out. It's showing possibilities of relations. It's as much about the immaterial, the as about the science, understand it's not so common cartographers thinking like that, because they want to own the landscape, and it's not so common for artists as well to see their territory, their environment as something they are part of, but they now. In your work, Laroche, this plays an important role. Could you tell something about that? How the body relates to your...
You're already immersed, like we're all here already. You know, we've already moved, and we're continuing to move, whether it's traveling through with ideas or sounds or places. I really like to reference things, but I like to give them a different kind of reference, I guess, reference point, you know, a poetic rather than something that's really fixed. People ask me, so where is this huge rock? You know, like I have this huge rock in the territory, and nobody knew where it was, but actually it's not a huge rock. It's a very, very small rock. I didn't know was that I used an image on the front cover, Arts Council and regional manager. I know that photograph really well. I know exactly where that is, because my house is just there. And I had seen a house, and I thought, I want to remove that reference point. And but it's actually an Arts Council England funded. It's quite nice that it's these little things, you know, somebody knows where that is because they live there. They know where the photograph was taken from because they photographed that house from there. But other people would just walk through there and not know, you know, those details unless they had some kind of physical or visceral relationship to that actual place. And it's I think it's those tiny details, including the sounds. And I mean, I have material works and immaterial works. I have a whole workshop program that is called Immaterial Fields, and actually one of those exercises is listening, but it's trying to identify different points in the relationship. You know, it's the relationship you develop with the place that you're moving through, you know, and just really it's paying attention. And I mean, it's probably as simple as that, really. That's the short answer.
Yes. So I'll make it a bit longer. Paying attention has much to do with care and healing, and this is actually something that immerses this whole event, this conference, how walking and healing are meeting each other, and how being together and walking together has a way of reconnecting with what we are, what we were, and beyond being the human, which is an important aspect, an important topic in this conference. It's not only about humans migrating, but as well about migrating or moving with other species or other beings, non-human beings. And then we come to the topic of this conference, transhumans, migrations, nomadism. Could you tell us a bit more about how we will go through this week and how this relates, so how this comes all together?
Yeah, at the beginning, Geert and myself thought of a topic that could englobe a little bit, could include all the things that were in our horizon of interest of all of us. And we thought of migrations and transhumans because on one side, it's happening everywhere, and it's the source of so many conflicts and problems, and at the same time of so much human fertility. But on the other side, it's something that is fading. Some transhumans are fading. Some migrations of animals and are disappearing because of the problems, psychological problems. And we thought that that could include a little bit the ideas for the people that was interested in that and all the people that was wanting to come. So under this label, we have been very open. We have admitted a lot of different ways of interpreting, ways of understanding these migrations. And from the point of view of form, we are still keeping the traditional form of a conference with all the papers and keynotes and all this, but we are in process, and I hope that in some years we will be completely in another place, in process to another way of meeting, which is more informal, more horizontal, and also which includes, I think, the possibility of deepening, because now our treasure is our networking, but we don't have time to experience the things of each and one, because we speak 15 minutes, 20 minutes, and then, wow, what did she say? And then we try to get a maximum advantage at dinner, at supper. But if this is the good thing of the meeting, then why don't we do the good thing all the time? And this is one thing. So why don't we go to a kind of conference that is not with the patterns, which are very useful, that we have received from universities and from scientific frameworks? Why don't we go to something that is more complex, in which maybe we will lose more time, but maybe we need to lose time, and to lose time to go to another place. So in this conference, we will have the old system, but we are going to the new system. And going to the new system is, for example, going from Girona to Banyoles by walking with theater players and with some of the artists that have dared to be intervening, participating in this walk. It can be also, for example, the procession that we will have on Wednesday, which is called There Are Other Gironas, because here everybody comes to the Girona, the cathedral, the Museum of the Jews. It is beautiful and nothing to object, but there are other Gironans here. And they have wonderful things, wonderful people, which are not monumental, but which are extremely alive. And we have this that you all have in your towns, that the town is losing and it is entering the woods, and it is not a park, but it is a wood, and it is someone that has appropriated a little corner of this place and has put a table and a chair, and they are meeting every day there. So we go there because we are familiar with that, and because we take something else than the postcard. That is another thing that I think is important. We are, in fact, we want or we don't want, we are tourists because we're tourists. Then let's be tourists in a deeper way, in a passionate way, in a much more emotional way. We are going also to dedicate some time to the terrible climate and ecological disaster. And we have here people that is very coherent and conscious of the problem. People that has come here, for example, by earth for not flying, or people that knows that very well. We will give word to Marta Moreno, who walked from Andalusia, Granada, to Helsinki last year to move things and to make evident the warning and the problem of this climate, of this ecological disaster that is over us and that can hurt us so much. So why do we do these things also? Because we don't want to stay here closed with the ones that have registered, even be them from all over the world. And there is Girona, there is Banyoles. We want to be in a real town, and we are doing things here, not in any other place where we could have been, and not only in internet. We are with our bodies here, so we want to connect as much as possible with the people here. So we have programmed some things for everybody to participate, which will make a little bit sometimes of disorder, because people that is not registered, and we don't know if they are female, male, or non-binary, they will be there. But this is very fertile, this is very good, and we really need that. And we are going to have every day some activities in which we will be with the locals if they want to come, because sometimes we program and see, let's go with the people, let's go with the locals, and the locals are there looking Madonna or Rosalia or anything that has nothing to do with our interest. But if they want to come, they will come. We are going also to meet with Girona urban sketchers, which are sketchers like all the sketchers in the world, because for the ones who sketch, for the ones who draw, it's a much, for me, it's a much better way of entering than blah, 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 saying things, or it's a way of sharing points of view, places of the town, things like this. So, well, I cannot enumerate all the things that we are going to do, but the idea is this, that we are hybrid, and that we put our body, not only our mind, and that we mix with the population as much as they want to have us with them, which is not that easy.
Great, as this is a cafe, you have as much to say as we do. So we are opening the floor for the people here and the people online, for your comments, stories, experiences that relate to what we have. Yes, please.
My name's Dan. I come from Naarm, or Melbourne, Australia, as you may know it. And so I'm a long way from home. So Clara, I think my first question is, I love that you're suggesting that we are going to get to know the place better through walking and engaging with it. But how can I be a good tourist? How can I be a good guest? I'm still at the very first steps of this, so can you tell me more about this place and what I need to know about it?
I don't know what to answer. I think there are no good tourists, not bad tourists either. I mean, we're all more or less, sometimes we say, we will be better for a better world and things like this. I think we are what we are. And of course, there is a right at every moment, you know very well what you should do. But this don't make you perfect. And we are very mixed, and sometimes we do wrong, and sometimes we are bad tourists, why not? And we experience the consequences. I don't think we can be so good. We just try.
So partly I asked that question because where I come from, there are protocols. And there are good places to visit and bad places to visit. I'm a white fella, so I'm an uninvited guest. So, but is there anything that this landscape asks of us while we enter onto it, or kind of that protocol to say hello to it? Do you know what I mean? Is there any ritual?
I saw yesterday very funny. Something was doing ecological farming. And they had like where they put the chicken, and the hens, and normally that's in one place. There's a big fan and fence, and they're in the same place. And what you see, of course, we all know it. It's all very green, and where they are, there's no grass because they're eating, they're looking. And it was so simple, but it was really struck me because they made a mobile fence. So they're changing every day into another place. And that was, for me, was like, wow, that's it. I mean, you don't have to be a good or a bad tourist. The only thing you have to do is not only go to Venezia, but you have to go to, you have to go to there, because that's a good tourist, I think. You have to go everywhere. Or stay in your place. Well,
It's like changing your position
yeah.
as much as possible.
Mm.
And another thing is that, and all of us that have worked, we have experienced that, is that you have that inside you. I mean, the smallest movement can blow a volcano of sensations, of emotions. So it is not against traveling far away. That can be very nice also, but we know once we have walked for some time, we know that we have all this in our immediate place and moment, and we can do it, and we are the landscape. We don't own the landscape, we are the landscape, and we belong to it. So once you experience that, you don't need to go very far away. If you go, it is fantastic, but if you don't go, there's also a lot of resources.
Annie.
The word that comes to mind when I listen to you speak is awareness. And as a pilgrim, for example, when we stop each night as we're walking on from place to place, we need to enter and stay and leave with awareness. And sometimes this is about informing ourselves in advance where we can walk and where we cannot. And sometimes it's about slowing down, like we did in El Gran Tour, to a speed where we can take in some of the things which are going around us, and at the same time connect with those messages, what you were saying, Clara, about, well, we do know really in ourselves, we do know. But if we go very fast, we can skim over some of the things that we do know when we engage with these other parts of ourselves, the landscape that we are. So awareness, question?
You opened the huge, let's say, relation that walking has with consciousness and awareness, and it as well as the small one, because it's not always about the big awareness, but also about being aware of the details, the small that is in front of us, and that we don't always, or most of the time, are not seeing, and that is as much the part of what is around us as the huge mountains, the Pyrenees here in front of us. And awareness of the other in a more human perspective, which relates the walking relates you by, like Clara said, by what is around you, by being it, by being the landscape, being the nature. So walking is, for me at least, always a more than human experience or act. I always had difficulty to talk about walking as an act or something you do. It's something you are part of. You're setting one foot in front of the other, but at the same time, the landscape is walking with you, and not only you're not walking on the landscape, not only on the ground. So that's and that is what is so important in let's say this alternative. Let's not call it alternative. Let's say a deeper cartography that is not about grasping, not about understanding through only to the ratio, to the trying to define, to limit, but to let it be, and to let it be means to be part of something. So that is awareness, and then we go to the great word of awareness. But the word awareness doesn't have to be that big. It can be just to be where you are, and that makes us a good tourist.
I read it, right?
Yes. Yes,
I
please.
was just thinking that it's about, just from what you were saying, I was just thinking about that idea of not only inhabiting something, but also to be inhabited yourself. So it's a flowing process that you're always part of. That would just be adding a comment, but you have a.
So we walk because we can. So that's the first point. Yeah. So other kind of the idea of migration and other non-human species or modern human species, whatever, they walk for different verbs, because we walk because we can. I walk because I choose, but I don't walk because I need, or I'm migrating because I'm fleeing, or I'm finding more food, or I'm fleeing from a war, whatever. So this is kind of the first idea why we do this. So we as a tourist, we walk because we consume. We want to do this. We can stop doing stuff. So this is the first idea. And the second idea, this is awareness. Can I ever be aware? Because my perspective to life and to my environment is through my being a human, a person. As humans, we built this idea of nature, something at least anthropocentrically, you know, like Eurocentric, like white people centered ideas. So we separated ourselves from the natural. So whenever, even if I try poetically, can I ever relate, understand the world as being a chicken or a fox or a frog or a whale? Is it possible for me to engage with the world through the eyes of something different than myself, or artificial intelligence, whatever? So I think I have these two questions: why to walk, why to move, and can I move, why? And is it really possible to be aware outside of my idea, as myself, as human, as Natasha, as a female white person? No, this is my remarks.
So as I said awareness, then I'd like to
Thank you.
respond. And respond again to what Dan said. The only way that I can understand, as what you said, middle class, white, somebody who can walk, who chooses to walk, is to listen. So to return to the sound question, to ask the questions, to spend time listening. Or if it's more quieter and more detailed, to watch the ants as they crawl, to spend time, is all I can offer when I have this privilege of being able to walk. So of course my response, I agree, will always be mine. But if I take the time to listen, it does change me, and therefore it does change the landscape because of what we were saying. So it's a really good question.
Regardless of being human, we do have our natures. And I think that for me, that's the question. Like, what is our nature? Because it's, you know, so much of everything that I do is part of a cultural framework. But I question my own nature within that cultural framework. You know, I do have a nature after all, regardless of being white, plural, everything else. And therefore I actually do feel a connection, whether I can walk or sit, or I did a huge curated project with a friend of mine who's in a wheelchair, who 14 field trips we did in the mountains. You know, I looked through a different perspective for that kind of encounter. In terms of there's a human will there to want to experience something of nature, but actually it's a cultural framework that we're exploring with. But we do have our own nature too. So.
Yeah, I agree. And I also think that when you give you some holiday of your expectations, your tasks, your thinking, and in these sometimes rare moments in which you share with the animals that are around you, either domestic or wild, there is something very flat, but very thin, but very special, in which you are nothing. And in this nothingness, there is a fusion. You feel fusion. You don't feel, oh, an important revelation or something like that. No, but in this non-being, non-thinking, not feeling, or feeling, just feeling to be there, there is something that flows in you. And maybe the biggest problem is that you don't have words to express it. That's why when we say our experiences walking over and do or any of the other that we have done, we don't have words to express that, because it's not cultural. It is natural. But we are nature, and this thing that is not heroic or fantastic or cultural, which also doesn't free us of our duty of being humans and doing right what we have to do because we have a task. But this other being, which also is very resting, very relaxing, is something that we share with everything. And we have it in our body. And sometimes when we are in quite extreme situations, when we are sick or we are very tired, we feel it. We feel this nothingness, so grateful of the bed, or of the breeze, or eating a little bit. And this nothingness is important. And I think that we don't have to find the things very far away in a very complicated universe. It is just very basic. And this, when you see your cats or you see your flies or your mosquitoes, they are like this, like somehow, each one, as she said, its own nature, but we are like this. Very much.
We can be like this. I mean, what you say is when it's also time, no? When time falls together with the moment you're there. I mean, you can very quick go back with your thoughts,
yeah,
with your memories, with your inputs you're getting. You can travel like this, like the speed of light. But if you, on the same time, and I, as a musician, I know this, it happens.
Absolutely.
Not always, but during a concert, you have like 10 moments, then you're on time. I'm just only thinking play.
Absolutely.
And these are moments, they are like when everything falls like in the same time. The same
And you are
moments.
not you are all.
No, no.
You are everything.
But these they're like short. I mean, that's the pity. But during the day, it's not really happening. Maybe the really experienced Zen persons or meditative can reach also that sort of moments. But I think that's a sort of nothingness you're telling about. And sorry, one thing, the first question, I need to walk, because if I'm sitting, I have to walk. I think it's not for me. It's not a choice. I really, if I sit all day, I have an urge to walk. That's,
to add that everything that we are trying to say is behind words, so we shouldn't talk. I mean, that's something which is when we speak about animals, we are animals, but we don't use our body for himself. We always think something, and we can feel things, and without thinking, and that's the moment which is like hinc and nunc, is going to be here and now. And when you feel that moment, that awareness, or we can put whatever word, which I agree with, but at the same time, I'm like, okay, but that's something that you can not touch, or you can touch, but you can't. I don't know if you can express it. There is other ways to express it.
Yeah, I just had one little thing to add. Really, it goes back to what you were talking about, healing. So I'll share with you that today marks 4 weeks since I finished cancer treatment for throat cancer. And actually this conference is the reason to move, to recover, to really get better, because I thought 4 weeks ago I might have to cancel because I felt so nothing, really. Like when my practice has changed, I mean, lots of stuff has changed, but I had to be here. I had to have a good voice. I have to give my keynote. I willed myself. I'm still not recovered. I won't be able to physically. 16 kilos is a lot to lose, and I don't have enough strength to do the walk between Girona and Banyoles, the other Girona. But I have the strength to be here because this is part of my healing, which goes back to our conversation earlier, you know, and it's really important.
Thank you.
But it's,
Thank you very much.
yeah, it's because I still have work to do, ultimately.
For example, coming here and giving your keynote.
Exactly. which is
Which
another
we are waiting.
which is another form of a map. It's a performance lecture. It's another mapping, but a poetic script, photographic images, 5 walks through different territories. It's a long 45-minute delivery. Yeah.
This is the beginning of being together, and for the people that are following us online, it's a way of sharing this beginning with us. We would love to have had you all here with us physically, because that is where it is actually about. This is also, this event that Clara and I are setting up is about more than sharing ideas or sharing knowledge, at least knowledge in the form of trying to grasp, to hold things, but to live what we know, what we feel as a way of deepening our being. And that relates again with walking. It's sort of bold to say that walking is more than human, because for a long time walking was defined as what humans separates from the rest of the animal world, because we are bipedalist, bipedal, yes, and and trying in as well as confidence to talk about migrations and nomadism in a more than human and a more than the human body related perspective is bold, but it all lies in how you see the more than human the approach. Like Natasha said, we are human. We are female, but we are more than that. More than that, if you know that, if you look at it from the scientific point of view, we have like 40% of our genetic material is plant material, so we are. So we are actually we are at the brink of a Copernican revolution, in the sense that we always thought that the sun was turning around us, the conscience or awareness was turning around to humans, but actually it is the humans that are circling around something that you can call consciousness or awareness, that is not even limited to the animal, not even to the organic, but even to the inorganic world, where systems of sharing information, knowledge, being conscious of things is actually much more than human-centered. In that perspective, walking is something that is done not only by humans, and as well in that view of walking as something that is connecting everything, that can be something that connects you with everything. We hope that this shifts our view on how we relate with the world.
So firstly, thank you very much. I hope everybody can hear me for all of the conversations. Wish I could be with you. I'm in central Portugal, so Boa Tarde from Portugal. I'm an artist researcher and making sound walks and works in various different places within this region. I guess my question is probably mainly for Laroche, but I admit other people may have responses as well. And firstly to say, I'm so glad that you're there and that you're able to be there and that you're well enough to be there. And I hope that the walks and the experiences that you have are very healing for you. I'm sure they will be. I was just fascinated to hear about your project about fieldwork. I've been thinking a lot about fieldwork within what I do in a couple of different ways. So I guess I've got two questions. One is, did you come to any conclusions about whether you would consider fieldwork to be an artwork in and of itself and in its own right? And secondly, I was wondering, from the political aspect of what you do, whether you found artists or whether you yourself have found ways of working with fieldwork, which I think is always automatically linked to ethnography, which I think has very problematic colonial resonances with it. More kind of radical fieldwork or fieldwork that is in response to some of those traditions. I was just wondering if there was anything from the project that you could share that might be in tune with that. Thank you.
So quick answer for the fieldwork in terms of an art form, yes, I think it can be. It's many things. That's what's so incredible, and I guess that's why the network's so large now, because different people are coming to the network for different reasons. So please do get in touch with me through the Temporal School. The emails on the platform. Please do get in touch. It'd be very nice to have a longer conversation with you about that, because I feel like it needs broadening out, really sort of probably to get away a little bit from the political dimension and the ethnographic or the ethical questions in fieldwork, because essentially it's a practice that comes from the social sciences to begin with, and it was a lens that was used for making assumptions really about different groups of people as well as different environments where people lived or operated or were part of. So it is problematic, and problematic in geography for the same reasons. which is why I interfered as much as possible in the Royal Geographical Society, which is why I decided to become a fellow there, so that I could be a slight fly in that ointment, and ask very awkward questions as much as possible, just to disrupt the status quo of how things are normally done, you know. And now there are tons of artists who are part of the Royal Geographical Society asking those questions, which is brilliant, and through the social sciences. So yes, I would love to have a bigger conversation.
Yes, hello everybody. So my name is Jo. I'm artist researcher based in central Portugal. I recently moved here in October, and I've been making sound walks for a few years now. And now, you know, we were talking about responding to places, and I think that Clara was talking about different kinds of Girona, and that's very resonant with me. At the moment, I'm exploring the place that I live in, central Portugal. It's quite rural. There's a lot of monocultural planted forest, but also a lot of farmed landscape. So I'm kind of developing a project at the moment, which is trying to explore using sound, places which are anthropogenic, human created, but also natural. So the planted forest here is a really good example of that. And I'm interested in, I was really interested in Laroche's reference to reference points, because I think there are very few reference points in these places, because their trees are all the same and they're all planted in lines. So I really want to find ways of finding value and beauty and love of places which we have made, but which are often less valued. So that's what I'm doing at the moment. And so this conversation has just been very rich for me. So thank you very much to everybody. I hope you have a wonderful time at the conference.
I had something else to add as well to that. The this confluence work, which it was a commission in a natural park in France, but this is an industrial landscape, and actually I got into trouble with the director of the regional photographic centre there, because I also work with the natural park, and the director of the photographic centre said, "This isn't the park." Park people said, "Yes, it is. This is the park we know." Just because the frames of reference.
It's nice to, in this sort of cases, you notice the difference and the importance as something has, and in another way, sound has. And in recognition, the image is far more powerful than maybe sound has in other things.
It depends on how you create the image. I mean, in performance lectures, I create the image through words as well as photography. So it depends how you create the image. You'll find out on the Friday. A performance lecture can give you images without giving you, or a poem can give you many more images sometimes than a photograph. So the image still becomes powerful, but it's not generated through a visual means. You visualize it because you already have those reference points in you. And I often write about sound as well, but it's things that filter through almost, rather than recording something maybe in a I guess I work like a musician where I make sounds rather than record them. But still, it can be an image if it's words. I mean, poetry is for me, the best medium to be able to express images in a way.
Yeah, no, sure. You can experiment images when you hear sound or vice versa. But there's also a thing that you have to really be. I mean, that's a difficult point, but you cannot be good in everything. So you can be a poet, and then you are very good in your words and describing sounds, which is very difficult with words, but a poet can. And a musician, he does other things, you know. He's
Well, I
it's
don't
a big
know,
mix.
because I play accordion,
Hmm.
percussion and other things. And I feel like it's all an expression.
Exactly.
And then they're
Yeah.
just different levels. I wouldn't call myself an expert in any.
Right. Mhm.
So, thank you so much, Laroche and Igor and Clara and everybody here to give this an energy of the beginning and to open this conference with this conversation. You that are participating from many places of the world, we are with you and you are with us. Thank you for being with us. We would like to acknowledge the European Creative Europe program for helping us setting up these walk cafes.